have those decision makers given feedback before? Have they given input on what they expect from it? Or has it built completely isolated from them and now it's just thrown over, right? And of course, then they wouldn't want to do it because they weren't part of the solution.
Welcome to Data Breakthroughs, the podcast where every episode starts with a mystery. My guest and I walk in blind. No clue what the problem is, no idea about the industry, and definitely not here to spend an hour debating tech stack. Instead, we unwrap a real problem from a real person, figure out what's actually going on, vanish for 15 minutes to think on our own, and then return to see if we can crack it live. It is part detective story, part improv challenge, and part let's see what breaks. No scripts, no preps, just curiosity, creativity, and a dash of chaos. Today, my partner in problem solving is the wonderful Kai. Hello, I'm happy to have you here today.
Hello, good to be here. Thanks for having me. It's going really well. I currently just has launched my book, Humanizing AI Strategy, my second book. Very exciting times. And yeah, all good otherwise.
Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners if they don't know you already? Because you're a celebrity on the internet as far as I know.
You're too kind. So I'm Kai. I currently work as a director for data and AI strategy at ThoughtWorks, which is a consultancy focusing on data and tech solutions. And I'm a big, passionate person about the human side of data and AI, which is also why I wrote 2 books about it, Humanizing a Data Strategy last year and Humanizing AI Strategy this year. But I also like to use my musical talents, for example, to make data and AI more approachable, right? So basically, I made songs like Governors of Data about data governance, or You and I and AI, like a little bit of a, let's say, a punchy song about the future of dating if AI is involved too much, and all these kind of things just to make the topics a bit more approachable.
You know, I remember the Christmas song you did the last year about the governance during Christmas, which was a hit. It was a huge hit. And if people didn't listen, they should go to your LinkedIn channel,
Absolutely.
I would say.
Yeah, I don't know when this episode's coming out, but if it's closer to Christmas time, it's even very seasonal. So very cool.
Awesome. So today what we're going to have is a problem. I don't know what is the problem yet. We're going to reveal it in a few minutes. But before we start, I would like to ask you 3 icebreaker questions. Are you ready for it?
Yes, I am.
What is the more worse, a missing value or a missing coffee?
Great question.
A strong start. A strong start.
Yes, I think a missing coffee, because once I have a coffee in me, the missing value is not that big of a deal anymore. I would say, like, one is a prerequisite to solve the other. Yeah.
If you could add one silly filter to every dashboard, what would it be?
A silly filter, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I would say turn all the fonts into Comic Sans. I think that would be really funny. Like, oh, this is too much work right now. I just want it to be more fun. And they click on it and then it's all Comic Sans font.
Mine is make all disappear.
Okay, fair point.
And then the last question that we have prepared for today is, would you rather debug code for a day or sit through a day of recovering lost charts?
Oh my God. Am I allowed to use AI in this scenario?
There is no limitations, but I don't know if I trust it.
That is true, but again, I think I would be I would be more productive debugging the code with AI, simply because at least it points me in the right directions more. Because retrieving lost charts feels much more manual and a lot more difficult to actually do it, because nothing can support me there. That's the only reason.
You can always call the IT and ask them to recover the last time that was
true. It's your problem now. Exactly.
Cool. And are we ready then to move to the problem space? Or would you like to mention anything before we're going there?
No, all good. I'm very excited about the challenge. So let's see what we can do.
Now, let's see together the problem that we're going to face today. Key questions. I've invested heavily in data infrastructure and hired talented analytics team. But in crucial production meeting, my plant managers still make decisions based on what happened last time and gut instincts rather than the comprehensive operational data we now have available. Last week, we had heated debate about capacity planning where the data clearly showed one recommendation, but leadership went with the plant manager experience instead. Interesting problem to have. What do you think about it for now?
I like this a lot. It's also, I think, a very familiar problem where it's gut feeling versus data, right? So excited to work on this.
And then we have in the situation, we are family-owned manufacturer that's grown from 50 to 340 employees in the past 8 years. The old guard plant manager have 15 to 20 years of experience and have successfully navigated crisis through relationships and intuitions. Meanwhile, we have built a modern data platform with real-time production metrics, quality tracking, and predictive maintenance capabilities. The trigger during our quarterly planning meeting, we had real-time data showing that plant B was operating at 87% efficiency, while plant A was at 94%, suggesting we should shift a major contract to plant A. However, our plan B manager argued that his team knows how to handle rush orders better and convinced leadership to keep the contract there. The project ended up 3 weeks late and 12% over budget, exactly what the data predicted. I like this one very much already.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite interesting one. The tension. There is growing divide between our data people and our operation people. The analytics team feels their insights are being ignored while plant manager feel like their their decades of experience is being de-evaluated by kids with spreadsheets. I love these parts. You know, I had already a debate club. I had a kindergarten.
Right.
And now we have kids with spreadsheets. I'm caught in the middle, having championed both the data investment and needing to respect the expertise that built this company. There are boundaries. There is no tech stack here, so we can remove this ticket. Cannot replace experienced plant managers. The operational knowledge is irreplaceable. Family ownership, value loyalty, and long-term relationship. Union environment requires careful change management. Manufacturing deadlines don't allow for length decision process, safety critical environment where wrong decisions have serious consequences. Now, I can also see in the details of this ticket that we received that it's a manufacturing of watering systems company.
Okay.
This is another interesting point to have in here when we're talking about it. Any thoughts about the problem that we are facing here?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because also given the history, right, of the company, a lot was the human side was emphasized a lot, right, where intuition, relationships, all of that was there. And if the operation, like if the data platform has been modernized and has been built in, then the question was, what was it being done for in the first place if it didn't come from the people that are making the decisions, right? Because now it's the decision makers against what the data says, and that's a really interesting one. Which leads me to my thought about why even then do a modern data platform if no one is using it, right? That's how it sounds like. Yeah.
I think that, you know, one of the things that I realize in many cases that a lot of companies running to adopt something, right? AI, Gen AI. Now I need to do everything with LLM models that's running in my background, and I have agents, but the value behind it not always clear. And I think that in what I see in here, at least from my perspective, is an attempt to modernize the production, maybe to create efficiency.
Right.
And the company have a lot of people that working there for a very long time. They don't see the value. And then the question is, did somebody actually build for them the system and with them or for them and then throw it and tell them like, now you need to use it?
Exactly.
And I think this is the problem we need to actually uncover.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Would you agree with me then that the problem statement should be how to make the people feel that the system was built for them rather than thrown on them? Or we can refine it in a nicer way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. Or I would have thought one more step ahead, because the goal of it all is that the decision makers are combining the data with their own expertise, right? To make the best decisions possible. That is how I would make it as the key. And then you have multiple elements and multiple layers of why they're not doing it right now. right? But the goal is for them to use the data to inform their decisions combined with the expertise that's also being acknowledged.
And I think this is a very much problem that we need to solve about people. It's not tech. There is nothing here to talk about tech as I see it.
Exactly.
And are we feeling comfortable then with this clarity statement that we have here now?
Yeah, I think so.
Are you ready for the brainstorming?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So what's going to happen now? We're going to basically turn off the cameras. And you listeners, you can also hit pause, put a 15 minutes timer on your clock and try to brainstorm as well with us what is the best solution to solve the problem. And we're going to see you in 15 minutes. How was the brainstorming?
Very good. It's a topic I think where there's so many different approaches to tackle it. But yeah, overall I think it was a good approach.
You know,
Fun
it
exercise.
was interesting because I started in the architecture side area to
Right, and I started in the brainstorm area.
You were in the brainstorming, and then I went to the brainstorming. You went to the architecture, and I think we're going to have something very interesting here today. Then,
yes, absolutely.
Would you like to start presenting your
Sure.
brainstorming area?
Yes, let's do it. So I basically started first with ideas, generally questions that I would have and that need an answer. Start on the left side, right? Do decision makers even have the right knowledge to be confident enough about working with data? Maybe they're generally scared of data and they don't know what it means. And that creates like a very basic resistance against it, right? It's something that I don't understand, so I don't want to have anything to do with it. If that is the case and they are knowledgeable about data, then the next question is the data trustworthy, right? Maybe they're worried about the data not reflecting reality. They have certain reasons why the data that they're seeing somewhere is not actually the real thing, and they consciously decide against it, right? But the other side of it, and we talked about this before, is the expertise being acknowledged, right? How is the data being communicated? Is it something that's communicated as now it replaces all of your gut feeling? Or is it something, please use it, this is going to be great to combine it with what you already know? And communication matters, right? And that also leads to the next question. How is success measured for the decision makers, right? What are the incentives for decision makers to actually use data to make decisions? Because if they're only being measured by short-term results rather than long-term results, for example, right? Then the gut feeling could tell them what's right away the right solution, but over time it creates a loss, for example, versus the data would show that historically you would actually make this small change, which might be an investment now, but it might lead to a long-term growth of so and so much, right? So how are they being measured? How is their bonus paid out, for example, right? And that matters in the end too on if they're using data or not. Then we also have the how was the data platform even built, right? I think we talked about that before too. Have those decision makers given feedback before? Have they given input on what they expect from it? Or has it built completely isolated from them and now it's just thrown over, right? And of course, then they wouldn't want to do it because they weren't part of the solution. And then lastly, and that's much more in detail, can there be any rules defined when decisions need to be made, right? Like simple business rules. If, let's say, the capacity of a certain plant goes below 50%, then a decision needs to be urgently made how to increase that capacity again, right? Or something like that. And if that can be made, then you can actually define rules how to actually apply it to decisions. So it's not just optional, it's actually mandatory to make decisions based on the data. And based on that, then basically I had like these ideas of quick wins. What could we get started with right away, right? For example, incentivize data-informed decision-making for plant managers, right? Simply said, if you're going to now start using the data more, then we're happy and you're going to get more acknowledged as a data innovator or something like that, right? Basically give them something and positive to be able to do it. Also, like the upskilling, which generally is not a bad idea. Even if they know about data already, there's always new things to talk about. There's always a knowledge exchange that could be good. So like a structured approach of an upskilling for plant managers of data would be good. The operating model between the analytics and the operational people should improve too. I think the fact that they're talking about each other as like the spreadsheet kids or whatever it was called, right, is a sign of the collaboration not working, right? Where they are painting each other as villains or as people that don't understand each other. And that needs to improve. And by having some shared goals or shared objectives, I think that could really be a good starting point. And if that works, then we can also implement data champions in plan management, right? We cannot convince the overall workforce right away to all be big fans of it, but you can choose people that are not as resisting or even enthusiastic about data already within all the plan managers, use them as examples to convince the others. So they become like the lighthouses that are authentically bringing everyone along and not just generically forcing everyone to do that. The only constraint I would then have is I think the reducing resistance will take time and it will not convince 100% everyone. That's just how it is with innovation and technology. There will always be people that will not be ever fully convinced, right? And that's something I think just to consider.
Yeah. Would you like to discuss a little bit the architecture?
Sure.
That you've
My
created?
architecture actually is, I decided for a process instead of actually like a technical architecture, because I thought about what would a structured process look like. So the very first one is to identify the decision points in business processes, right? Like when it comes to plan management, when do we need to make decisions about it? To just have a structured approach, right? But then also we would have the data needed to make the inferred decision point, right? To know what data is needed. The data sets would be co-created on that side to actually reflect those data. Then there should be rules about decision making when the thresholds are, for example, defined, like if capacity is below X%, decision needs to be made, or if risk is be above certain points, it needs to be made. Then based on that, we could develop dashboards, monitorings, and alertings, right? And then we need to just observe all the additional new requirements. But in all of these steps, it's important to have the feedback and input from the decision makers because it should not be done on its isolation, but every step should be part of the journey of the decision makers because then they actually want to use it afterwards. And it's not something that's being put on them and where they're just forced to use it.
I completely, and I really love that you put emphasis on this communication, on bringing them together in the brainstorming area, because it seems really that they are disconnected, that there is two camps.
Exactly.
And it reminds me that I have a very good friend that the family have for a very long time a roastery of coffee. And when he joined the business after university, he decided that he wants to do everything with technology. There's no more gut feeling on how the coffee is roasted. We want to standardize it. We want to make it a little bit better, right? As we're going.
Interesting. Yeah.
Make the decision on how much coffee we buy and so on, all of it based on data. And he also had a very big issue to do that. And when I approached this version, I actually took some of the thoughts that I had with him back then because we were bouncing ideas. We were together at the university and he was telling me back then about these issues. And what I realized, it's as an old business, you already know quite well because you optimized, right? As a manufacturer, you optimize your process. But at some point, you're arriving to the moment you cannot optimize anymore without having big data. Yes, you are on the floor, you're sitting there, you see things, but you are unable to do it. And one of the things that he done back then was one of the employees started to say, wow, finally I have time to go and smoke cigarettes. Don't smoke cigarettes, but it was like, it created for him more space to do other stuff.
Absolutely. Yes.
And this was my approach here. So maybe I can also present my brainstorming area a little bit.
Sure, please do.
We can discuss about it. So from my perspective is define data as a support tool. I think this was one of the key components that my friend done back then. It didn't say that you have to make the decision based on it. This is supporting our decision. This is for us to have an understanding, for example, how many kilos of coffee we sold last time. In this case, most likely watering system, but same, right? At the end of the day, you're selling something, you need to have the data to be able to do it. And then create some dashboard that is prepared with the team or the managers of the plants, of the factories, rather than I decided for you, this is the dashboard you need to look at. And I think there are two approaches here that I'm always thinking about. The first one is the managers, the senior management goes say, this is what I want to look at. Now you all need to basically align based on what I'm looking at and do whatever you want in your area and bring it back. The other approach is actually, especially when we touching such a delicate situation is to actually bring the people that the data gonna influence the most and make them part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So this was the idea behind here. And it's quite quickly. This is something that you can do in 30 days, quite easy win. And then also translate it KPIs to people language. So maybe also KPIs they're using are unclear for the people when they look in it. It's like, what do you mean here by Simpson family? I don't understand this. It's completely bullshit for me. And that's exactly the thing that I thought, like, very quickly, 30 days, this is what we can do. We can translate it. We can make more disclaimers. We can make it clear and understandable, and also bring the people to start trying to use it. There are going to still be issues for sure. People are not going to jump on it, but at least you're giving them the power to do it. And then this is part of the constraint, that I placed in here. So first of all, it's a family owned. We need to take it into consideration. The first 30 days most likely going to be horrible and very tough because it requires a very big shift, and it needs also everybody to decide we are going forward, right? We are moving. And then the second part is the union. And I know it here from Germany, how tough it is to introduce sometimes things that you need the council approval in your work. And how long it can take. And I think the same thing going to be here. So you need to actually also bring the work council or the union into the conversation, explain to them how the data are going to be used, which connect me to the concerns that I see lately quite often. A lot of people think that if they're going to give the data their knowledge of how to do things, they're going to be replaced basically by Gen AI. Some machine or some robot going to come and replace them. And I think that this is something that we need to ensure several times in here, that this is not the idea behind it. It's just to help to make the decision and optimize as much as possible the efficiency of how we work. At the end of the day, we work in an organization that is working on an income, I hope. That's the idea, to have revenues. Then also from the long-term solution, so it's DeFi decision book. So this is very similar to what you mentioned before. It's how we're actually creating some hybrid approach between data, humans, and how we're making the decisions together. The second thing that I have here for the long term is assign an analyst to work with the plant manager. So somebody who sits together with them, not somewhere outside and coming from time to time telling them stuff. And I think this is something that's going to change quite massively the approach also with the floor managers, because this is also, again, this is the things that I think that the touch will make the change in management, and people are going to start trusting the data. Other than that, success metrics, risk metrics, dashboard. So actually have a way to show success, to show risks that we're running towards, and make it visible and easy for people to understand. I think this is also something that long-term needs to be developed, and create data-proof program, or I should have said here, stories, to show how data helped improve process or decision. So basically, here you go. You see, we use the data. This is how it helps us to make things better. And I put here sticky notes. This is my unicorn, as I see it, and it's training the plant managers on working with the data and exploring it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much they're going to be open for it because they're working for quite a long time, but I think that it's worth trying to bring them on board. For example, this is something we did at Zalando back in the days when I introduced Tableau. We brought people to experiment with it, to play with it, and try to see how it works for them, which brought them to use Tableau much more often than what we expected. In architecture, it's not an architecture, it's just some flow of ideas, but I covered most of them up in here. And yeah, that's it on my side.
Cool. Very good. I think also very complementary to the both of us, right? What we did.
Correct.
Now.
Yeah.
I phrased something more generically. You made it more specifically, and then the other way around too. I think it's really cool. Nice.
Yeah, we have very good synergy, I would say here.
Yeah, very cool.
Anything else we should discuss about the brainstorming before we're moving to start refining it?
All good. I think we can refine it.
Cool. So now what I'm going to do, again, 2 minutes off camera. Feel free to build your 3 insights from these episodes, the 3 action items you're taking out of it. I will do the same, and we see each other in 2 minutes. Okay. We are back. How was it?
Very good. I think even I would say 3 insights are too little, but then again, it forces you to converge a little bit and bring it into a crystal clear point, right? So it's really cool.
We're working in a funnel, right? So soon we're going to take our 6 insights, the combined ones, and we're going to need to refine them into 3. But then maybe you would like to start introducing your insights and actions.
Absolutely. So my insights are The first one is about that expertise versus data is always a tension field, right? Especially among the ones that are more experienced, because they have experienced a time where data wasn't available all the time and they relied on their gut feeling. But the solution to it, which is then in my actions, is that we need to just communicate more clearly about how expertise and data should go hand in hand and not against each other. So to value both sides and ensuring that it's about doing things better and not devaluing someone else's expertise or their unique experience. The other one is that generally people don't like to work with things that they didn't choose, right? That includes data or dashboards. And that's why co-creating is so important, right? That if you're building something, always make the stakeholders and the key user group part of the journey and not do it in isolation, because then they were part of the solutioning itself and they're much more likely to use it afterwards because they were asked about it before. And the last one, this culture of being more data-driven and using data for more decision-making needs to be reflected in the collaboration model itself. So it's really about making the collaboration clear about helping each other to solve problems, but having also a shared purpose and not isolated conflicting goals, right? Like if the different teams are incentivized with different goals that are against each other's goals, then that actually creates a competition and not actually collaboration. And that needs to be done top down to actually make that work.
I think I really like the point that you raised in here. And I went for a different direction. So my perspective, I had first, it's people and communication problem that we need to address. And I think that these scams and stuff, this is something that for me, a little bit disturbing, but happens quite often, right? That they having data there or they're doing something, they're silo building and I don't know what they're doing. And I think this is disconnect what happened there.
Right.
So solve this one. Second part is we need to work. So it's just an insight that continuing from there, we need to work with the people on building dashboards. We cannot stay isolated and we cannot leave it to somebody to fix it for us. And the third insight for me is we need to measure success and have proof of long and short term. This is what you mentioned before about the decision, because I think that as you said, I'm not going to repeat everything, but we can create some proof of the data and how it impacted on the long-term decisions, on the short terms, and we should use it as much as possible. This is why we are there. And from action perspective, I had 3 actions that I put in here. So the first action point is create a culture of as data is to support. I think this is again something that organizations that are concerned about data, they should start as a support rather than a decision maker, and then slowly get it used to people that there is data there to help them to make the decision. Or already had the decision from the data. The second action is create dashboard with the managers and not leave it there. Again, as I said in the above point on the insight, make sure that they are involved in it, and then define decision book. How do you actually make decisions? When are you going to the data? When are you going to the human resource? And actually map it so it's easier also to define. So this is also what you mentioned before. And these are my 3 insights and 3 actions. We need now to start refining which one is the best one to put out there, because we have only 3 spots for insights. We have only 3 spots for actions. If this one was tough.
Right.
Would you like to suggest the first one?
Yeah, I think my second insight and your second insight is basically the same, right?
More or less, yeah. On this we can
So
agree.
I think that's a no-brainer. We can definitely use that, right? If you build any dashboards or data sets, always do it with the people, right? Do it together with the plant managers in this case.
This one has moved. And then I think I really like the expertise versus data is always a tension field. I think this is also something that is a key insight we should take out of here.
Yeah.
And I think it's also connected to the communication and problem that I mentioned before. And then we have spot for one more.
Yeah, I actually really like the one you said about proof on long short-term decisions and measuring success.
I just quoted
it. Because it also has that insight about incentives, right? That what is a success even, and do we then motivate people for the short term or the long term success of it? Right? What they're supposed to do. Yeah.
Cool. So we have it. Now we need to go to the actions. Co-create solution. I think we both agreed on it.
exactly. Then I guess the communicate clearly how expertise and data should go hand in hand is the one for the expertise versus data point anyway.
Yeah, agree.
And yeah, the one about define decision book, I like that. I would maybe phrase it that it's more about the rules of decision making almost, right?
Yeah, we can change it.
And the incentives. Right. Clarify the rules and of decision making and the incentives.
I think we have 3 and 3 here.
Yeah.
And it was
great.
easy. It was easier than the 6 that we needed to pick before.
Exactly. But also, to be fair, we were all in the same direction, right? Nothing of our insights were conflicting with each other or something. So
we need to create some conflict now just for the episode to end up in a nice tone, no?
Yeah, true.
Cool. Any then other follow-up topics or open questions that we have out of this episode?
I guess I would point to generally change management to be more taken seriously in any innovation projects in data, right? Because it's always the underestimated problem, right? That people are resisting silently or loudly. And then you have the solution, but nobody's using it. And you're kind of losing money because you don't get the promised return on investment that you was supposed to get, right? Because of people resisting. So I think that could be a follow-up topic just generally to pay more attention to change management.
I think we even have one episode that's going to be broadcast about change management very soon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Even better. Cool.
Any other open questions or anything like that?
Not really. I guess, because you brought up an interesting point about how it's a specific industry, right? About plant managers and so on. And I believe that different industries probably have the same problem, but in very different degrees, right? And for plant managers, it's a very hands-on job and it's a very physical process job. So I get how it's difficult to rely completely on digital virtual things to make decisions, right? So it kind of it comes from there. But in the more modern tech world, where there's only digital products and digital processes, right? It's supposed to be better, right? It's supposed to be then less resistant. But even then, there's different reasons for resistance there. So yeah, I guess, the open question is only, do we have a different point of view for different industries on that problem? And is the solution maybe a different one too, right?
It'll be interesting to follow up actually at one day when we have the time for it.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then as a last thing for the episode, would you like to say to people where they can find you?
Yeah. So the best way is to find me on LinkedIn. Always happy to talk to people about data and AI and stuff. Also check out my books, right? Humanizing Data Strategy and Humanizing AI Strategy. It's available on Amazon and wherever you regionally get your books. And for my music, you can check out my YouTube channel, where I have different funny songs about data and AI as well that people can check out.
Cool. And then as a last thing, do you think we got a breakthrough in our solution today?
Yes, I think we did. And also because we worked on it like separately and then came together, but it was already fitting in very well with each other. That definitely counts as a breakthrough in my book.
Cool. I really enjoyed to have you here today. We're going to add all the information in the episode description. So the links for the books, your LinkedIn profile, everything so people can reach out. And also I will invite you to reply what did you find as a solution, and maybe we can learn something new out of it as well. Thank you very much for joining. And I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye. That's a wrap on another Data Breakthroughs session. If you enjoyed watching us tackle this problem, we would love to solve yours next. Head to the link in the show notes to submit your data challenge. You could be featured in an upcoming episode. If you're a data professional who wants to join me in the problem-solving hot seat, there is a guest form too. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next breakthrough. Bye-bye.